Hi everybody, today I'm going to be replacing the front shocks on my 2001 Isuzu Rodeo. The shocks I'm pulling off are probably original to the vehicle. I know that I haven't had them changed since I've owned this truck, and I bought it with about 44,000 miles and now it has about 115,000, so it's definitely time for new ones. So anyway, this will be a pretty quick process. I've already replaced the driver's side shock, getting ready to do the passenger side now. So let's get into it. The tools you're going to need to do this job are pretty minimal. You're going to need a crescent wrench or open-ended wrench. This is an 8-inch. That's about a good size to get in there. In my case, I needed a 14mm open-end wrench, and I had these ratcheting ones. This is actually a 9/16, but that fits as well. You'll need a socket wrench, and in my case the lower mounting bolts on the shocks were 17mm, so that's the size socket I've got here. Maybe a pry bar to help get the bolts out, possibly a breaker bar if the bolts are stuck really good, some penetrating oil, and of course your new shocks. In my case I'm using KYB gas adjusts. For the front, I'm using the 54337s. I've heard good things about these, so we'll give them a try. Alright, so obviously first things first, you're going to want to jack up the vehicle and remove the tires and wheels. I'm not going to show that process just because I don't really want to offer advice on raising your vehicle so that you can work under it. I just don't want to be responsible for somebody getting hurt. Just please use judgment, good judgment and caution when you do that. And don't ever work under the vehicle that's only supported by just a jack. You can see I've got jack stands here under the frame. I do have a jack here also that I use to slightly raise up on the lower control arm, but it's not supporting the vehicle. The weight of the vehicle is completely supported by 2 jack stands, one on either side. But again, I don't want to offer recommendations on that. Just please be careful. You don't want to get under this thing and have it come down on you. So, in any case, once you get it jacked up, then the first thing I did was hit the bolts that we're going to need to remove with some PB Blaster to get in there and loosen things up a little bit. So you've got a mounting bolt up top here, and then follow the shock to the bottom, and you've got another mounting bolt at the bottom, right there. I hit those with some PB Blaster, let it soak for a few minutes, and now we're ready to get started. So the first step we're going to need to do is to remove this upper nut that's attached to the stud, which is part of the shock absorber. To do that, we're going to take our open-ended wrench, which again in my case this is a 14mm nut, and we'll fit it over the stud like that. And then, hopefully you can see this, but this is a pretty good shot. If it'll focus, that stud is actually squared off on the top so that you can grip it with pliers or a wrench. That's where the open-ended, or the adjustable crescent wrench comes in handy. You can grip that and hold the stud from turning while you use your other hand to turn the open-ended wrench counterclockwise. So I'll need 2 hands to do this, but essentially we're just going to hold the stud and spin that nut off counterclockwise, which will allow us to drop the shock down, and we can move on to that lower mounting bolt and then pull it out of position. So let me get this top nut off and we'll proceed from there. Okay, you can see I've got the nut removed now, and we're ready to take this hardware off the top. You've got a large washer basically and a rubber grommet. So the top of the shock is now free. We just need to undo the bottom mounting bolt and then lower the lower control arm so we can drop the shock down to clear the stud below the mounting bracket. Now, in the first clip I think I showed you I had a jack down here. I don't think I explained very well what I was doing with it. But let me give you the shot here. Basically I've got it, so I used a brick to sort of wedge between it and the lower control arm, but I raised the jack up just slightly to raise the suspension up, maybe an inch or so, to try to take some of the tension off the shock, so that when I removed that top bolt, the shock wasn't dropping lower and lower each time I unthreaded the bolt. So it just made it easier to get the bolt out. Now we're going to want to take this lower bolt out. Once we get it free, then we can lower the jack a little bit and lower the suspension so that we can get this shock to clear the upper bracket. So down here, this is, again, in my case, this is a 17mm nut and bolt. When I did the driver's side, I didn't even need to hold the back side. I just put my socket on this nut, and I was able to give it a good crank, and it came loose without spinning the back side, and I was able to just unthread it by hand from there. And I just knocked it out with I think I took my pry bar and hit the end of the bolt and knocked it loose. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to back this nut off, and we'll knock this bolt out of the end of the shock, and we'll be ready to lower things down. So let me get this out and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, I've got that nut on the lower bolt loose. I can finish taking it off by hand, and then I'll see if we can knock the bolt loose and just pull it out. Now our shock is totally loose, disconnected from the vehicle, and again, we just need to lower the suspension enough for this top stud to clear under that mounting bracket. So to do that, I'm just going to take my jack and gently, if I can, lower the suspension. There we go. And the shock is free now. So, we're ready to put our new one in. Let me get it out of the box, show you the hardware that it comes with, and we'll start putting it together and get this job wrapped up. Alright, so here's the hardware that comes with the new shock. It's got 2 washers, 2 rubber grommets, and 2 nuts. And if I'm reading the instructions correctly, which I'm not sure I am, but they're pretty bad, honestly. There's not a whole lot of direction. It's mainly just really simple diagrams, which aren't very detailed and kind of hard to decipher. Anyway, the way I did the driver's side, and that's the way I'm going to do this side as well, is these washers are slightly different size. This one is a little bit larger in diameter than this one. So what I did on the driver's side was put the smaller washer, and it's sort of concave, put the recessed side facing up, so concave looking up on first. Then I put this grommet, which has a little bit of a chamfer on the top, what I'm calling the top. That's the way the diagram showed it, was this chamfer pointing up. Put that on next. And then when we slide that up into the shock mount up here, on the top side of the stud, we'll have this grommet that has a little sleeve that's supposed to fit down inside the hole like that. And then you'll put the larger washer on top, concave looking down. And then there's 2 nuts. I think the idea is for the larger nut to go in first, up top on the stud, and once you get that snug down, then you run the this other nut, same diameter but slightly smaller thickness. We run that down on top of the other nut, sort of as a locking mechanism, so that they don't back off. And then we'll be reusing the lower mounting bolt and nut. So I just need to get the shock back in position. It's going to go in the same way that it came out. I just have to sort of finagle. Probably won't be able to do it on camera. I'll need 2 hands, but we'll finagle the top in first, well, actually, probably have to get it in position. There we go. Stick the bottom down kind of where you need to go. And maybe I can do it on camera. Yeah, just like that. Okay. So, I stuck the bottom in first, just to clear all the suspension parts. That gets it low enough for the top to slip in. Then you can raise it up and swing the bottom into the bracket. So, it's in position now. Just need to put the hardware back on. Just the reverse process of what we just did. So we'll put the lower bolt in first, then the top, and then we can put the wheels back on and lower the vehicle. So let me get this lower bolt in, and we'll move on to the top. Alright, I got the lower bolt and nut tightened up again. So now we can move back up to the top. And again, this rubber grommet goes on like that. You have to wiggle it so that sleeve will slide through the hole in the bracket, which it just did. And then this washer goes on top like that. And then we take the larger, taller of the nuts and see if we can get it started. And I'm just going to run that down tight until, the way I did the driver's side was I spun it until it eventually starts wanting to twist the whole shock. And then I, at that point, ran the other nut on top of it to lock it down. So I'm just going to use my open-end wrench to tighten this one, and then I'll show you a quick shot of putting the lock nut on top of that. Alright, so I've got that nut pretty much tightened down as far as it'll go. You can see as I turn it, it wants to twist the shock. You can see this, the shock trying to turn. So now I'm ready to put the other nut on top, and I'll just tighten that down. And we're done. Now all we need to do is just put the wheels back on and lower the vehicle back down. So this has been a pretty quick process. It took me maybe an hour and a half, working at a slow pace, and and filming included. So not bad really. You could do it a lot faster if you weren't trying to make a video. So anyway, anybody can tackle this with the right tools. So I hope that you'll find this useful. You can save yourself a few dollars, and just again, please be safe when you're working on your vehicle. Use caution, use common sense, don't take any risks, and make sure that you have adequate jack stands rated for the correct weight. So anyway, thanks for watching, and good luck.